Was the trade deadline this afternoon. And again, I think the Knicks should just stand pat and just stand pat. Let this group of guys do what they got to do. You got Mitchell Robinson back. You're going to get Derrick Rose back. I don't really know. Like, why would you add somebody to do what? Just to go up one spot, maybe in the playoffs?
Well, if it doesn't cost you anything, and you can maybe win a round, or you can avoid that play-in scenario, that 7-10 thing, then yeah, I mean, fine.
Unless there is a way to acquire a player that would be, I don't know, a top 10 player some way, because you could fit him under your salary cap, and you think that you could build with him, and he doesn't take Julius Randle's spot, doesn't take R.J. Barrett's spot.
That won't happen, yeah.
Right, so if that's not going to happen, I mean, what are they going to add another center, add another three, add another point guard? I mean, come on. This team.
Well, they do need a better point guard situation.
But as long as Derrick Rose comes back and Elfrid Payton comes back, look, they're not winning a championship. But I do think that it is significant for Tom Thibodeau, who keeps talking about culture and where to go about things to be a professional, and it definitely has rubbed off on the players. Let this group of players do that. Let this group of players take you to the playoffs and see how far you can go with them. Julius Randle has given you everything you could ever ask for and more. You know, R.J. Barrett is growing right before our eyes. I think Elfrid Payton is a very good defensive player, and nobody talks about Nerlens Noel because he's the guy who had to go in there and fill in for Mitchell Robinson, and given what his track record was and how he's playing now, he's been a great teammate. I think this team is about as close as it's ever been. I think they got the right coach. And, you know, to waste assets on bringing in, like, say, an Oladipo or somebody like that, to me, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, what is really an asset in your mind, I guess, would be the question, because, you know, to me, there are assets and then there's guys that you trade and picks that you trade.
Okay, so we kind of have fun at the expense of Frank Ntilikina.
Yeah.
Okay, is he really an asset?
No.
All right, so that you're talking about bottom of the line, you know, Kevin Knox. We talk about him. We don't even talk about him anymore because he doesn't play.
Maybe another team could look at him as a high upside guy.
All right, so if you move those guys, who cares? It's not really going to make a big hills beans of difference. And I don't think anybody's going to want them anyway, especially if you're trying to get in a real player here that you think can support this team and help this team. I just think you have to be realistic, and I think Thibodeau has said it all. This whole the off season leading into this season about what he is trying to accomplish. I think he's accomplished the biggest part of it, and that is setting the tone and the culture and getting the right players to buy in. There's no question about that. And the players should be applauded for that. And I think, you know, when you hear the fans that are actually going to the games chanting MVP for Julius Randle, much like we have, we say it in jest, but we do believe that he has played outstanding basketball and he has been the unquestioned leader of the team. I can root for a guy like that, and I can root for a team that plays like this.
Yeah, you know what I'm a little bit worried about is dissension amongst the ranks in the front office. This is why I'll tell you why I think this might be going on. Because of the reporting I've seen around one player and Andre Drummond. It goes back and forth. So it's like you've got, and this is multiple guys saying this. Now, Andre Drummond, of course, has fallen out of favor in Cleveland. He hasn't played since February 12th. He's been sitting there. There's lots of teams that are interested. The Lakers are interested. The Nets are interested. Apparently, the Knicks are interested. But one day the Knicks are interested. One day they're not. So I believe that there are people in the organization that want Andre Drummond. There's other people who don't. And that means that there's a philosophy divide that's going on. And I just want to know who's in charge, and I want to know what they're thinking about this team, because so far they've done all the smart stuff. Now, I don't believe that there's a player out there who they could trade for at the deadline that they're going to trade away half the roster for. Like, I don't think they're going to go and get a Bradley Beal. I don't think that's going to happen. It's
not going to be a Carmelo-type trade,
right.
And nor should there be. We should have learned our lesson, and the Knicks should have learned their lesson. And Bradley Beal is not selling more tickets. I can understand, like, Carmelo brought initially when he got here, there was a level of excitement. It was Carmelo Anthony, you know. He went to Syracuse. He was born here. Mm-hmm. He grew up on the East Coast, down in Baltimore. We understand. Well, I'm coming home and all that other stuff. So I kind of understand that, you know, back then Jim Dolan probably said, look, we got to have a star. I got to have somebody to sell just that they wouldn't get the wrong guy.
So I just wonder, is that we got to make the playoffs. We got to make some noise here. It's been so bad for so long. Let's go out and get one of these rental players. So, for example, Andre Drummond, if he doesn't get traded today, there's going to be a buyout, and then basically he's going to be a free agent and
then
go.
He can pick wherever he wants.
He's probably going to go to the Lakers. But the Knicks could say, we desperately want him. We're going to trade for him before.
For what?
But this is what I'm saying is I'm with you for what?
Yeah.
But what scares me is there's definitely people in the organization that are pushing for this is it. We got to make some noise this year, man. Like, we can't just let this season slip through our fingers, and that scares me a little bit today. So, if they can add to the roster without giving up much and then become a better basketball team, I'm all for it this season and then reevaluate in the offseason.
I would be more apt to think that they would trade for somebody that Tom Thibodeau has coached somewhere. Like they brought in Derrick Rose. They brought in Derrick Rose because Thibodeau knows him. For whatever reason, they got a great relationship, and he plays really well.
Yeah.
And they were going to limit his minutes, and even, they couldn't do that because of injuries. But I think Leon Rose has gone about this the right way. I have to say that. I mean, even though they're only a 500 team, and I know the object is to win a championship, look, let's face it. When Brooklyn gets all their players back, you're talking about Brooklyn adding more players. How many more players can they have?
Maybe Andre Drummond, maybe J.J. Redick.
I mean, come on. They have three of the best players in the league. I know they're not all playing together, and nobody played last night, but I'm just like, they have three of the best players in the league. What the hell else do they need, honestly?
Okay, so if you think that adding another big man who can also score and help defensively could solidify a championship, and you can get him for nothing, then why wouldn't you bring in Andre Drummond?
I guess you would, but, God, it's ridiculous.
Well, this is what happens, though.
The big three has only played 7 games together.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, last night, none of them play. It's just an embarrassment. They get steamrolled.
And I think
you wanted to see that game, didn't you?
I did. No, I didn't watch it at
all.
But
you know what I'm saying? You wanted to see the Nets against the Jazz, the Nets being as close to what they're going to be in the playoffs against the team with one of the best records in basketball. So that's what you wanted to see. And you didn't get any of it. You just got a game that was over immediately.
Yeah, maybe if those two teams meet in the finals, then we'll have something. Then we'll see what the Jazz really is if they make it through the Western Conference. But I don't know. Could you? And I'm just throwing this out there only just because of the name recognition.
Yeah.
And because I'm sure he's unhappy as hell. I don't know how the trade would go down. I'm just giving you a hypothetical.
I love hypotheticals around the trade deadline. Let's go.
Let's say the Wizards wanted to get rid of Westbrook.
Stop.
Would you want him?
No, come on.
All right. But that's the kind of name that you're thinking about that, or even a Bradley. Would you want a Bradley Beal?
Well. In theory, as I just knocked my headphones out, excuse me, in theory, I want a player who's a superstar. But in order to get Bradley Beal, you're going to have to trade so many players away.
See his contract, and you see how they play down there? They don't care.
Yeah, there's no way.
They're playing as if they don't care.
You can't get Bradley Beal.
Right, fine. Okay, that's great. And that's good news because there is one other aspect of this team that I really do like, and of the Knicks team. And that is the fact that, when you see them win games at the end of games, not this last game where they just blew out the Wizards, the game where I think it was Alex Burks at the end of the game, I think it was Alex Burks, loses the ball, gets the ball back, and you see his teammates just rush to the court and just absolutely get all around him and high-five him. And you see the smiles, you see the camaraderie in that team. You know how hard it is to build that? You know how hard it is to make guys who play in a league, who know that, they legitimately have one real superstar. Maybe they have one on the come with R.J. Barrett. But to actually act that way, believe in each other, and play that way, I just would like to think that Leon Rose is seeing this, and Scott Perry is seeing this.
Yeah, they're not going to blow up the roster at the trade. They're not going to blow up the roster at the trade deadline.
And with Mitchell Robinson back now, it's like making a trade at the trade deadline. How many times have we talked about that?
Plenty. If the Knicks bring somebody in, it's going to be an expiring contract situation.
Yes, we know that.
That's what it's going to be. So you don't have to worry about it. I really believe that.
Leave the team alone. Let the team do it. And, I believe they will do it. I believe that they will make it to the playoffs. And if they get the right positioning in the playoffs, I believe that they could win a round in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which would be unbelievable.
That would be great, and maybe that's what they're thinking. So just as you said it would be unbelievable if they won a round in the playoffs, there's someone in the Knicks organization saying the same exact thing and saying maybe if we go out and get Norman Powell or we go out and get Andre Drummond or we make another move to supplement what we have here, then we can actually do that. And how great would that be?
You know what? Leon Rose is a former agent, probably knows a lot of these different agents. Hey, he's probably telling guys, look, well, go to the buyout and then come here. We'll take you here then. You know, that would be the smart thing to do.
Yeah, but I mean, if Andre Drummond's not, now I know he's a Mount Vernon guy. He would go to the Lakers, I'm sure, before he would come.
Or the Nets.
Yeah, I mean, he'd have more of an opportunity.
I would tell you,
with the Lakers,
with the Lakers, because you don't know what the Lakers are going to be in 5 weeks.
Yeah, but he could also say he's going to be playing like crazy. He hasn't played since February 12th. He's going to be like their most important player the second he gets out there.
And if he came to the Nets, he'd have to disappear for 3 weeks before he played. I mean, what the Nets are doing and what they're going through, and I understand Harden's got a neck issue and all that other stuff, and it was probably smart not to play him back to back. Totally understand it. Totally get it. I have no problem with that. But the other nonsense around every other aspect of their team, they get Blake Griffin here, doesn't play for 10 days or whatever it was, 7 days. I mean, come on, what are we doing? I mean, and I know all they care about is one thing and one thing only, and that's winning the championship, and they will have the inside track of that once they get all their big three back. But for the Knicks, there's no reason to panic. There's no reason to make any stupid trades. There's no reason to do anything dumb. Let this team, take you as far as it can take you. They got a great leader now everybody's buying into. They got a great coach who has reset the culture, and I think as a Knicks fan, I would like to think I speak for all Knicks fans.
Yeah.
We love the way our team's playing defense.
Mm-hmm.
We love the fact that Julius Randle came back committed more than ever, and he's playing for a huge contract. We love the fact that we're seeing growth from R.J. Barrett. We love the fact that Mitchell Robinson's back, and if the other game, the other night against the Wizards, is any example of what he's going to be like here the second half of the season, because he's got fresh legs.
Fresh legs.
That's what you want. You want young. You want aggressive. You want guys who got hops. And you got guys that, he was so happy to be back on the basketball court.
Yeah. I'm going to throw another conventional sports theory at you right now, okay?
Here we go.
Because you're giving me hey, you don't want to break this thing up. You got something. You got the camaraderie.
But there's no reason to, is what I'm saying.
Right. And so they won't break it up. But let's say they added a player like Norman Powell or Andre Drummond to help out this team right now. Is that hey, they brought somebody else in because they believe in us. This is going to galvanize this group. Welcome to what we've built here. You didn't have to give up anybody to get them.
If I'm Nerlens Noel and Mitchell Robinson, I say to myself, how many minutes does this cost to me? That's
so
what
it's
I
not
say.
about the team. It's about the individual minutes for the players, you're saying.
What I think it's about the camaraderie of the team, and I think Nerlens Noel did a hell of a job. He did a hell of a job. You can't ask any more from him and what he gave you since Mitchell Robinson was out. Mitchell Robinson's coming off the bench, and everybody seems to like each other, respect each other. That is so hard to do in this day and age. It is so hard, and that's why I really, adding Derrick
How
Rose
hard is it?
Very hard. Adding Derrick Rose was interesting when it happened.
Yeah.
Because you figure that, that was going to cost somebody some minutes. And they were supposed to limit his minutes, but who knew that you were going to have as many injuries as you had? Who knew that Quickly was going to get hurt? Who knew that Elfrid Payton was going to get hurt? So it was a good thing that you had Derrick Rose at the moment, but then all of a sudden he goes on the COVID list, and now it falls back to Frank Ntilikina, who actually did okay. I didn't have a problem with what he was doing. He couldn't shoot there for about 3 games in a row, but then he came back to the Garden and shot well. My fandom for the Knicks is actually back. It's back.
Whoa.
It's back. And
that's a seismic shift.
Well, the moment they hired Thibodeau, it was back. Because I knew we had a legitimate head coach. I knew we had somebody.
I will dispute that. You were intrigued at that point.
But I knew we had a legitimate head coach.
You were intrigued at that point, but your fandom came back with the way that they have played and the fact that they've won games.
I really had nothing. I had nothing against the hiring of Derek Fisher was just like mind-numbing. And then David Fizdale, and watching him and how he reacted in games was just even more mind-numbing. And now we actually have a guy that was a part of the culture here when the team was good.
Yep.
And there was some pride in the locker room, and the building was tough to play in. And I really feel like with the way that they played against the 76ers, the way that they played against Brooklyn, showed you that whatever Thibodeau brought, it's here now. Now it's a question of, in the offseason, acquiring a little bit more talent to build around Julius Randle and R.J. Barrett. Just think about how much better they'll be next year, how much better you think Emmanuel Quickley will be next year.
Yeah.
So I'm patient because I'm seeing growth.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing the pride's back. That's all now you all of a sudden around the city, what do you see? You see guys wearing Knicks jerseys again.
Knicks.
Right,
Knicks. You're seeing people around the city?
I am.
I don't see lots of people around the city.
I saw yesterday the whole, I don't know. It was weird. 5 or 6 different, Knicks jerseys.
Contingent of Knicks fans?
I don't know what it was. It was just, I just feel like that there's a pride that's back. That's all. And a lot of that has to do with the hiring of Thibodeau, so they deserve credit for that. And if they stand pat today at the trade deadline and don't do anything stupid or major, and I don't really know what major would include because Quickly's untouchable, Robinson's untouchable, Barrett's untouchable, Randall's untouchable. I guess you could say everybody else could be in a trade package, but I wouldn't do it, man. I would just stand pat and let this team go as far as it can go.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.